As I'm recording this, Snap is down 43% on the day after announcing the night before that they came in with and lowered guidance intra-quarter. So this is the middle of the quarter. Just a month ago, they actually gave a pretty decent upbeat guidance number. Now a month later, they are lowering that guidance on unanticipated slowing in growth. This is something that decimated the rest of the market, particularly in the social media sector, as well as just overall tech. The NASDAQ has taken a huge beating on Snap's numbers. So does this make it a buy now that it's down so much? In my opinion, it's not. I think that we look at a couple of other stocks, and one in particular that I'm focusing on today that actually makes a better case to buy up than Snap does. Now, stick around to the end of the video because I am going to be covering when I do think that Snap will be a buy. But let's just cover what exactly happened here. So Snap actually came in and with an adjusted EBITDA below the low end of its guidance, saying that since we issued April guidance on April 21st, 2022, the macroeconomic environment has deteriorated further and faster than anticipated. The news sent the stock here down to 52-week lows, and it's retreating to areas that we hadn't seen since the bottom of the pandemic. This is well below where it was sitting before the pandemic even started, which is also very interesting. However, we look at the multiple on Snap, and it's actually quite high. I'm looking at it right now, and even with this move down, it's trading still at 37 times next year's earnings. That's your forward multiple, guys. And that is pretty crazy. 37 times next year's earning is what it's trading at, and it is trading down 43% still. So can it go down lower? Yeah, I think it's going to come down to even more reasonable price. We could see it come down to $10 a share or more. I mean, that's the reality here. And looking at Snap at this point. And so where do we look to? What do we go to? What actually is within reasonable value and what doesn't have a high multiple in the social media space? Look, at the end of the day, social media isn't going anywhere. It's the best bang for your buck as far as marketing is concerned. And yeah, there are some worries about some slowing of growth. But if we look at a lot of these companies and where they were at 2 years ago before the pandemic came and look at where they're at right now, they are still much stronger for it. Now let's take a look at one stock that I think in particular is worth buying up at this point, and that is Meta Platforms. Look at this forward PE at 15 times next year's earnings. The stock's trading down 8.5% in sympathy to Snap. And that's the crazy part. Let's take a look again at Snap. All right, let me just show you where the PE is on there, just so you know I'm not joshing you. According to Webull, this is at 37, almost 38 times next year's earnings. This is your forward PE right here. Market cap of $20 billion. Facebook, on the other hand, or Meta Platforms, whatever you want to call it, has a forward PE of 15 times in next year's earnings, trading at about 10 times the market cap. But forward means everything here, in my opinion, anyway, as far as value is concerned. If I told you that Facebook has free cash flow of $40 billion and the stock's priced at 15 times next year's earnings with still prospects of growth. Of course, it's not going to be growth like we saw during the pandemic because ad spend obviously is slowing down and we're just in a different economic time. However, even with the slowing of growth, this is well below projected growth is from a PE standpoint. When you look at something like Snap. Snap has around $200 to $225 million in free cash flow. That's with an M. Facebook has unbelievable 40 billion with a B in free cash flow. You take a look at the stock here. This is your weekly chart, by the way. I know that I usually end up using the daily, but this is your weekly chart. We haven't seen levels like this on Facebook since October of 2019. And to me, I just think that the stock is just or the company itself is way more valuable than it was in October 2019. It's essentially wiped out all of its pandemic gains. Here's another interesting a bit of information. Meta Platforms serves about 3.64 billion people. That's half the globe is using Facebook. Comparatively to something like Snap, 500 million, right? And it still is a ton of people. It's still a huge platform, but when you compare it to something like the behemoth that what Facebook and Meta Platforms is, there's just no comparison. This massive audience provides the company with a gold mine of data, which is what gives you the best bang of bang for your buck as a business owner when you're creating a marketing strategy, and they serve millions of businesses. This stock isn't going anywhere, and given the fact that it's trading below now what S&P forward multiple is, to me, in my opinion, this looks like an excellent value down here. Now, can it go lower? Absolutely. Given the environment that we're in right now, I think that there's a possibility that it can come much lower, especially if it breaks below this 172 area. But at the end of the day, during the pandemic, during 2020, we saw 23 days of substantial gains. If you weren't in the market during those 23 days, you would be red on the year. And I think that that's kind of what I'm speaking to as far as Facebook's concerned. Do you want to get in close to the bottom, or do you want to get at the absolute bottom? And I think that trying to time this is going to end in a lot of pain for a lot of people. And so, given the multiple, given the value here, and given just how good of a company this actually is, I think that, in my opinion, that Facebook's going to be the much better buy here. Now, again, as I had mentioned, we talked about Snap being down 43%, and it's down even more than that on the year. I'm going to pull up the chart here on Snap and kind of think about where could be a possible buy for Snap, because I do think that there is an easy now 100% upside here post earnings. This is going to be 100% upside over the next 6 to 12 months. Can I see Snap getting back to that $20 mark on as far as the stock's concerned? Absolutely. But I think it goes lower before then. So let's take a look at the chart here as we're looking at potential opportunities for Snap. Oop, there we go. So looking at Snap, this is at a key area now around 1270. This is was a resistance way back. Again, this is your weekly chart. I had to pull it out so we can kind of get a 30,000 foot view here. April 2019 is where we saw this as a resistance before finally breaking up over that $12.70 mark. So, and it didn't really look back, right? It just continued to go up until the pandemic hit. And of course, we know how that ended. The stock came down to a low of $7.95. Do I think that $7.95 is on the table? No. I think realistically, the more reasonable area is probably around $10. If we scroll out here a little bit more, and I'll move this support line down to around $10, you can kind of see where I got that, right? Back in May of 2018, that's where it kind of sat as a support, and then held its support again after breaking up over that $12.70 mark, as I had mentioned. And so I think $10, just, from a mental standpoint, just a mental support as well as psychological. I hate saying mental, a psychological support. But and looking at the weekly chart, obviously severely oversold now. So risk reward wise, Snap is still in a pretty good spot. I do think that it comes down lower, but I also think that the better value and the better bang for your buck, if we ignore the actual stock price and look at the fundamentals, Facebook's a way better value, especially from a forward multiple standpoint. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Facebook. Are you considering it? Did you already buy it? Where do you see it going from here? Also, make sure you hit that subscribe and that thumbs up button, and hit that notification bell to get notified when I go live every day at Monday through Thursday at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time, as I cover all the earnings that'll be coming out during that day. This week, we have some really big ones. NVIDIA is going to be the most notable. I'll be putting out a video on that as well. So make sure you're staying tuned, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow.